أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا وجعلنا نومكم سباتا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا وجعلنا سراجا وهاجا وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا لنخرج به حبا ونباتا وجنات ألفافا إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في السور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إنا جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا إنا للمتقين مفازا حدائق وأعنابا وكواعب أترابا وكأسا دهاقا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله الكريم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أحسنت. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله، اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وارتابت قلوبهم فهم في ريبهم يترددون. whose hearts have doubted, and they in their doubt are hesitating. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. One of the major reasons to this pandemic of doubt is that social norms are what are seen to be the correct structure of life and the way we are supposed to live. And these social norms are full of, yarhamukumullah, widespread corruption and decadence, and they have become somewhat of an opposition to religion. And even so, the crimes of the rich and famous, as always, are always cloaked and hidden, and the crimes of the general population are what are brought out into the public. And people are so silent today over the murder of Jeffrey Epstein and still consider it to be a suicide. And they are so silent over his Love Island, which should be referred to as a rape island. And they remain silent over these as if they never took place. And all those that are associated in this. And I remember when I was younger, I was still a young man, when this happened with one of the football clubs. There was an incident that took place in Coffs Harbour. There was a gang rape, but they were all high profile players. Somehow it just disappeared. No one heard about it anymore. And all of a sudden, like it did not exist at all. Because it would have ruined so many high profile people's reputations. Alaykum as-salam. And even you see today, Jared Hayne, for example, was not imprisoned until he was seen that he had reached the end of his career. He was of no use to them anymore. But when he had been charged for something similar in San Francisco, and they could see there was a second opportunity to bring him back into the sport, that for some reason disappeared and wasn't to be something that was to be mentioned. People would then say, hold on, and this is where doubts arise. They say to you, why is it that I need religion for me to be moral? Why do I need religion to be moral? I can be moralistic without religion. You say, okay. So how do you determine what is moralistic and what is not? Because if I was to grab 20 people off the street and ask them the difference between what is moral and what is not, and what is right and what is wrong, do you think that there would be any form of anything uniform? Would they be homogeneous in the way that they lived? No. Each one would have something that differs to the other. Everyone would have a different opinion. So what is the foundation? What is the basis? What is the set of laws that I would base my idea on what is moralistic and what's ethical and what is not? And atheism, like today's corrupt system, does what? What they actually do, they do not rely on following evidence. You know, in science, you're supposed to follow evidence. And they do not rely upon this at all. They don't say the evidence and they look where evidence leads them. Instead, they have a presupposition. They presuppose something. And when they presuppose something, they determine the outcome based on that presupposition. It's like, do you remember? I'll give you a good example. If you remember the trial, the person they wanted to charge was Hezbollah, and they wanted to bring it to be Hezbollah is who committed this. So they wanted to form the cause to bring it towards saying Hezbollah is the one that committed the crime. They didn't really care at the evidence. And if you looked at all the evidence that was produced, no one cared about the evidence. The fact that there was passengers on a plane with explosive residue on them. You know how they come and pat you down? And they lived in Parramatta and they weren't taken in for questioning. The fact that the bodyguard of Rafiq Hariri went AWOL to perform an examination at a local university, that wasn't even looked at. The fact that German investigators said you need to look at this person, that wasn't taken into consideration. Why? Because they had a set outcome. You know, just like, do you remember when 9/11 happened? What did they say? We got to go to war with Iraq. And everyone said, what's Iraq got to do with this? All these pilots were what? Saudi nationals. Why are we going to war with Iraq? All right, we'll fight Afghanistan first, then we'll go to Iraq. Somehow that's where it needs to go. And this is the way the atheist works. Same way. They don't want God to exist, so that's their presupposition. And based on this, we will make an outcome that will get there. And if you actually look at the opinions of two modern-day physicists and mathematicians, one's dead. He died last year, James Borrow, I think his name was. And the other one's called Frank Tipler. They actually say, they have written this, and I don't want to go too far into this, but they've written this report. It's called the 10 steps or the 10 stages of human evolution. And if you actually go by the steps in order for the human genome to have come about, the sun in one of the sequence would have incinerated the earth. It takes that long for this process to have taken place according to the steps that the evolutionists use. So if we go by this, it would actually support the case of the creationists and not the atheist. But that's something, if you want to look them up, Burrow and Tipler, and look up their opinion of the 10 steps or 10 stages of human evolution. But we get to the point is, what is a doubt to begin with? What is a doubt? A doubt is when you are hesitant and unsure. And if I ask you, firstly, when we talk about the word doubt, you can say when it comes to God, there is no way you would believe in God if God had not let you know Him. It's impossible. Why? Because humans work on what? They work on what they see, and they work on what they hear, and what is applied with their 5 senses. Isn't that right? So there must have been something that was placed within us to make us search for God, to make us look for a creator, to make us move in this direction. Those two fans went AWOL, didn't they? They were there at one stage. But anyway. So that's why the prophets in the Quran, Allah Azzawajal says, قالت رسلهم أفي الله شك. Is there any doubt in God? And this is a given. This is something that's a given. Even Anthony Flew, that was a staunch atheist. Anthony Flew, for those that remember, most of you won't, because most of you were born after 2002 of the youth. How many of you would have been born? Sorry, some of you were born after. But even if you were born in 1995, it's not like you were studying Anthony Flew. Anthony Flew was pretty much your Dawkins, Richard Dawkins of the past. He was the staunchest atheist, very anti-God. Last moments of his life, he said, listen. He said, there is a creator. I can't deny. There's no evidence for me to say there isn't. But still, because of his atheism, he said, I won't accept the God they tell me to accept. So he became what's called a deist. Deists are the ones that believe that God created the earth and just suddenly disappeared. He said, listen, let me go play with something else. You know, I made this model. Let me try and make another model. But he couldn't negate it. It was impossible for him to negate the existence of there being a creator. And that's why the modern thinker tends to believe that the belief in God is a thing of the past. You know why? Because they say, hold on, in the past, they would hear lightning. And what would happen? You know when you get those thunderstorms, those heavy thunderstorms in the middle of the night where you wake up and, you know, you're in a state of what? Fear. So then they'd conjure the idea of what? Thor. You know, Thor. You know, him and Odin doing something in Asgard, something's gone off, and he's sending down these bolts of lightning. And they would conjure up the idea of there being gods, you know, and they would say there's these gods, and these gods existed. And then the idea of evil would come from where? Darkness. I'd see something dark. Why? Because it's sinister, it's unknown, there must be evil. And then that evil somehow became what? The devil. So that's the ideas that would enter their head. So that's what modern thinkers say. That's where the idea of gods came. Idea of gods, they'd see such great power that was manifested by the universe, so therefore there's a God. Then they'd see something that was so evil in the darkness, and they would say that is the what's it called? That is the devil. But now we're intelligent. We don't need to believe these old ways. Now we understand how lightning comes about. Now we understand what darkness is. We have this understanding, so there is no need for God. But this modern scholar, for some reason, can't cure cancer. You know, we've had it for so long. They haven't been able to overcome cancer. And this modern scholar can't even cure this pandemic that we're experiencing today. And every time a new strain comes out, and they just go, what do we do? Here, try this. And then every now and then they'll tell you, well, maybe this doesn't work, but this might work better. This same modern scholar that wants to move in this manner, even to the extent where Einstein said our understanding of science is what? Primitive and what? And childlike. What does that mean? He said, this is the greatest physicist of modern times. And he says that our understanding of science is primitive, of knowledge, and childlike. Well, when you say childlike, what do you mean? You know, childlike is when my child comes up to me and says, does God have legs? And I say, no, God does not have legs. And my child says to me, then God must be sitting all the time. I say, why? He said, because he doesn't have legs. How's he going to stand? This is what childlike means. That they don't understand to the extent that you can't explain certain things to them. It's like trying to explain to your wife what offside is, no offense to the ladies. You know, you'd sit there and say, listen, if a body part is ahead before the ball's being played, then a body part that they can score with, no, not their hand. And you'll go over and over, and then again, what is an offside? No offense to the ladies, I'm talking, some of them understand what's going on in sport. But anyway, even concepts of gravity and time, which were given to for us as kids, that if you delve further into them, you'll find that the two greatest physicists of the modern times, Albert Einstein and Sir Isaac Newton, both have a different concept of what gravity is and what time is. Could you believe that? Gravity, they have a different concept and understanding what gravity is, and they have a different concept and understanding of what time is. And the only thing you would find in this age of modern technology is what? Is the development of the shroud of mis and disinformation. They've changed the way that they manipulate the minds of the masses. How? And I'm not just throwing words. Think about this. The same way in the 1970s they were able to blackball South Africa and say it was an apartheid state. It can no longer be involved in any of the sports, but they haven't done the same with the state of Israel, where not only are they meant to be involved, that the Algerian or Tunisian athlete that refused to compete against the Israeli, they're banned for 10 years. But they're not considered an apartheid state. The same argument that was used to go to war against Afghanistan 20 years was the same argument to allow them to rule themselves today. See, the differences, they're there, but people need to open their minds. The same argument that was used to recognize the suffering of the Jews is not used to recognize the suffering of the Armenians, or the suffering of the Kurds, or the suffering of the Palestinians, or the suffering of the Bahrainis, or the suffering of any oppressed. It's selective on who falls under this and who doesn't. Remember, I put up for some of the people that watch my status, I put up that story that was in the Leader, the St. George and Southern Shire Leader. It was a story about 3 weeks ago about a guy that fell in love with a girl when she was 8 years old, married her before she was 16. It was a great love story. Let's say it was a Muslim that did that. It's no longer a love story. What is it now? A tale of rape, tragedy, oppression. Why? Because it was a Muslim. It's different when it's someone that isn't a Muslim. Now, sorry, it's a very long introduction. There's a purpose for this. The presence of something, and science tells us, is not there until you discover it. You know, they use the fallacious argument of a tree falling in the woods. You ask them, does a tree falling in the woods make any sound? It doesn't, they say. You say, why? They say, because there's nobody there to hear it. So if no one's there to hear it, then it doesn't make a sound. That's the argument. But it's present. The sound is there. Just because no one has observed it, it doesn't mean it wasn't there. And this is the way science has always moved, in the direction where once it's observed, it exists. But before that, it did not exist. And even if you look at a lot of the dialogues with Imam Ali ibn Musa Rada salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, especially the one with Imran al-Sabi or al-Sabi al-Mutakallim, they say. He was a person that was a philosopher, and this guy was so good at debating anyone that was up against him. They say that he had the ability to make people doubt in the existence of God. And this is so huge. Why? Because doubt in the existence of God, forget about praying, fasting, going to Hajj, forget about everything. God doesn't exist, there's no purpose. And he had that ability in his speech. And I'm not going to go through his dialogue with the Imam, but it got to the point when he debates with the Imam. When you read through it, it's very nice. But at the end of the discussion, when the Imam responds to him, like one of the points he says, like honestly, you go into a trance when you read these. One of the points he says to the Imam, when he says that when he created with a need, he said if God created with a need, then he would create only what would support him. And he would do an increase. It would be a great amount, because the more support, you know when they say you can never have enough friends, or you can never have enough allies, if it was to make him stronger or for support, then he would have created something huge in number. So nothing he created was for his benefit. Nothing God created is for Allah's benefit. خَلَقَنَا لِيَرْحَمَنَا. He created us to have mercy on us. But the point is, it goes through the ideas of Tawheed, the arguments for Tawheed. Right near the end, the adhan is called and the Imam says it's time for waqt al-salat. And Imran al-Mutakallim says to the Imam, stop. Don't go pray. He says, because my heart has started to move towards. And the Imam said, no. Because who guides? Allah guides. So the Imam said, we have to go pray. They went to pray. When they came back to continue, at that point this is where the narration says that Umran al-Mutakallim fell on his face in prostration and declared the Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Very long introduction about what a doubt is. But who are doubtful? You know, when we talk about what is a person that is doubtful, it's someone that is doubtful, someone that comes and goes. Why? Because they don't have anything cemented. Deen is not firm within them. And I want to look at a narration as we go through who the doubtful are. This narration, unfortunately, is always used by people to push their agendas. This narration is in Al-Kafi, narrated in Al-Kafi. Al-Qulayni has placed it in there. This narration is Sahih al-Sanad, that it is something that is authentic, it's something that is strong. There's no doubt in the value of this narration at all and its position. It's the understanding of this narration. Where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam mentions at the beginning, I'm going to say it bit by bit and break it up. He says, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمْ أَهْلَ الرَّيْبِ وَالْبِدْعِ. He says, if you see Ahl, the people of Al-Rayb, which is what? What's Rayb? It's doubt. Wal-Bid'ah is innovation. Okay, the problem is those that interpret this, I said, they characterize the descriptions of who these people are in their own understanding. So if I look at the word, that Rayb, it means doubt. Now when I say Ahlul Rayb, or as mentioned, Ahlul Rayb because of the sequences, the place in the sentence it's put, he says if you see these Ahlul Rayb, meaning, you know, when you say Ahl means the people of, the adherents of, you know, in this case, the people of doubt. You know, when you say, for example, Dhul Qarnayn, it's like that, saying the one with two epochs, or the one with two horns, or whatever the meaning, it's something that you describe them by. They are not casuals to this matter, it's their thing. It's not like if someone says something doubtful once a year or once every 2 years. We're talking about people that this is their thing. This is what they do. They go about this. They are proponents of ambiguity. They are proponents of disinformation. They enjoy stirring the pot. Every few days they drop a bomb and then they enjoy the aftermath, you know? And they block anyone that has a decent argument against them. Anyone that has a position against them, they'll block them. You know, the ones that put the effervescent drop in the water. They just like to see, you know, they're the catalyst in every formula. They just like to see the reaction. They like to see the madness when things come about. And every time they make a comment, it stirs a debate and it begins to baffle people. And that's why they're called Ahlul Rayb. They're people that cause doubt within the people. They are so bad that even to keep their company, one of the things that the fourth holy Imam, Al-Imam Ali ibn Musa, Al-Imam Ali ibn al-Husayn, Zainul Abidin, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, when he speaks about the sins that are mentioned in Dua Qumail, we say, Allahumma ghfir li adh-dhunub allati what? Tasam. The ones that are these sins that affect you, the things that destroy your relationships. There's different with Allah. There's different types of sins. Of them, he says, mujalasatu ahlil rayb. To sit in their congregation, to be with them, this is what gives you one of these sins that's considered that affects your support between you and Allah Azzawajal. So not to even attend and be with these people. You know, people today will send me a message and say, Sheikh so-and-so said this, or he has made this message. I say, hold on, this isn't the first time you've sent me this. You've sent it plenty of times. Why are you still following this person? You know, why do you keep up with what he's doing? Why is it, do I sit there and say, hold on, someone's become a drug dealer? You know, today I bought 200 kilos of pills. He bought 50 kilos of cocaine. Next week, why am I following him? Do I follow if a woman becomes illicit? Today she's working at this establishment. Next week she's working. Who cares? Why do you still follow these people? They've put up their hand and said, listen, I'm going to work the streets tonight. Why do you still watch what they've got to say? Why is it do you want to know every time they have what they have to say? Unless you are someone that wants to dispel what they say. You are someone that's writing a counter to what they say. Otherwise, or you're someone that speaks against them and gets rid of this doubt that has come about. Then you have a position to be listening to them. Otherwise, don't waste your time. What does the Prophet say about dealing with them? He mentions several things. He says, فَأَظْهِرُوا الْبَرَاءَةَ مِنْهُمْ وَأَكْثِرُوا مِنْ سَبِّهِمْ وَالْقَوْلِ فِيهِمْ وَالْوَقِيعَةَ وَبَاهِتُوهُمْ. Okay? These are the things he says. We're going to go over each one. First one he says, فَأَظْهِرُوا الْبَرَاءَةَ مِنْهُمْ. What does that mean, فَأَظْهِرُوا الْبَرَاءَةَ مِنْهُمْ? Openly let the people know that this person has nothing to do with us. This person is riding solo. He has his own way. You know, when some people come out of the woodworks in order, I remember this guy came out overseas and he was saying his opinions every day. And then one day on radio, they're talking to him, they're saying, you know, you're giving an opinion, there's ulama, they say this, and he goes, hold on, let me introduce myself. He said, Ana sahib ra'i. He says, I am someone that has an opinion. I'm a mujtahid. He declared his ijtihad on national radio. You know, he became the Howard Stern of mujtahids, or the Stan Zamanics or Alan Jones of mujtahids. He came out and said, listen guys, I'm a mujtahid now. So all these bogus and stupid things you've been hearing, now they're official. You know, I'm someone that carries weight. These people, you have to show, you sideline them, that they have no association with religion. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, وَأَكْثِرُوا مِنْ سَبِّهِمْ. Now here's the problem. وَأَكْثِرُوا مِنْ سَبِّهِمْ is where we have a problem. The people that don't understand the hadith, what do? They get up and they will say every swear word under the sun. Does that mean I'm allowed to say things about them that aren't true? You know, you'll see someone who'll say, this person's a son of fornication. Astaghfir Rabbak. How can you say this person was conceived in this manner? Why? Because you don't like their opinion. And they choose who they want to call Ahl al-Raib. It's someone that they don't like, not someone that has a contrary opinion. وَأَكْثِرُوا مِنْ سَبِّهِمْ basically means say what belittles them in public. Put them down in public. Don't let them have that position that they have. And then he says, but not to obviously, not to create a false opinion about them. You've seen the hadith, for example, where the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam would bring about people that would talk like this. He said, come, let me inform you about your lineage. Who wants to know where they're from? Who wants to know where you're from? And usually Umar ibn Khattab will get up and say, please, end this conversation. He not all the rations, he's always the one that stops it. He says, you know, we'll sort this. You don't need to do this. We don't want anyone being exposed today. Because, you know, if it came, you look at Quraysh, theirs was great. Many people were born, you know, in very, well, what is okay today, but back then was not. But anyway, al-qawla fihim is what he says. Al-qawla fihim is to defame them, basically. To defame who they are. Let them, you know. Why? In other words, that I can basically do what mentions also, it says al-waqi'a which means to backbite them. And what's backbiting? What's ghiba? Ghiba is hatq. This person, it's okay to hatq. This person that wants to put doubts into people's minds, yeah, it's okay. Whatever you know about them, let it out. Let it out. They want to sit and attack religion, you show what they are. You know this person, this is what this person did. This person would actually tell people things and that and let people know what type of a person they are so they understand who this person that he's talking. That's why when Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam said what? Ala wa inna ad-da'i ibn ad-da'i. When he's speaking about Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, he tells you, let me tell you who this guy is. Ubaydullah doesn't know who his father is. Da'i, yadda'i, that this person is father. Ibn ad-da'i, that Ziyad, the alleged father of Ubaydullah, also doesn't know who his father is. So it's like, just it's a lottery. You pick which one you want. Who spent that night with his mother. They go through and they pick out whichever one. This is the way it is. You might find it funny, but this is the way it actually was. They wouldn't know. They'd look for who looked the strongest. I'd be proud to have him. And sometimes, you'd stuff up. Like Amr ibn al-As, they said al-As ibn Wa'il, but the problem is a verse that says the guy can't pitch up a tent. Can't raise a flag. But for some reason, he turns out to be the father of Amr. But anyway, finally, he says, bahituhum. Bahituhum does not mean, once again, whenever you look at making lies about them, bahituhum is in the same case as Ibrahim al-Khalil alayhi wa ala nabiyyina wa alihi afdal as-salatu was-salam gave conclusive proof to Namrud. When he says to Namrud, he says to him, my God does what? He says, Allah, my God, our God, the one that you should believe in, does what? He says he brings to life and he takes life. So Namrud was a Namrud, a mutakabbir. Namrud said, hold on. Bring out this prisoner who is sentenced to death. He said, you're free to go. So this man was on his way to death. Now I've given him life. And he grabs one of his guards. He says, kill him on the spot. He said, and this guard was living. Now he's dead. So your God brings to life and he kills, and so do I. So then Ibrahim said, my God makes the sun rise from the east and set in the west. You make it rise from the west. You're a God. Do the opposite. So God says in the Quran, فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. This is a conclusive proof. You claim to be so-and-so? Show me what you have. And a lot of these people that bring the arguments, and they use rhetoric, the arguments have no basis. But they do it in a way, and who falls? The ones that are uneducated when it comes to religious discussion. So how do we remove these doubts and how do we get certainty? Because Thabatuddin, as the Imam says, biquwatil yaqeen. You want to have firm belief, you got to have certainty. Do you know if you have certainty, doesn't matter what anyone says to you. It won't bother you. You won't jump ship at the first doubtful issue that arises. I remember people that would say, we can't even agree on the day of Eid. That's it. I don't want to pray anymore. I've had enough of this religion. You guys can't even agree on what day is going to do or be the Eid. So where do I get my strength from? Where do I get my strength in belief? Well, obviously, I get my strength from knowledge. Knowledge from where? The seminary, the pulpit, from books. You say yes, you get it from the knowledge. Okay, but how do I know who to listen to? This is a problem. There's a lot of people that give lectures. There are a lot of books that are written. You go to a Shia website, do you think every book there should be read? No. It's mixed. Even when you go to Shia Voice, there's things that we shouldn't even be listening to, but they just say it's Shia, let's just put them all on board. Because a lot of these people put these sites together and they choose who to put up there. But who do I choose to listen to? Well, everyone's going to have their own opinions. Everyone's going to have their agenda on telling you, listen to this guy, so you only listen to that certain opinion. The other person says this. Depends on their political beliefs. someone's with this side, he'll say that. Someone's with that side, someone's with that side, someone's against. They're all going to have a different opinion. And the thing is, when I want to know who to listen to, I need to look at who Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim told us to listen to. So Al-Nabi al-A'zam, Al-Rasul Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, says in a narration, لا تجلسوا إلا عند من يدعوكم من خمس إلى خمس. Says, do not sit or congregate with anyone unless they call you from 5 towards 5. From 5 things towards 5 things. And this, remember this. This is your guideline for you to follow for the rest of your life. You want to know who to listen to, this is how you choose and determine. You'll find most people will fit under this. It's only the odd few that come out of the woodworks and want to be known that are different. The first thing he says, من الشك إلى اليقين. You look at Muslims today, why are they so indifferent? I said, because they have so much doubt. And because people have killed their beliefs. Because if you look at the most viewed and the most listened to, are the people that shouldn't be listened to. And the ones that are least viewed. You know, some of the scholars that I listen to their lectures, honestly, they'll be lucky to get triple the views. People aren't interested. You know, people want to hear the Gangnam styles of Manabar. They want to hear the ones that they give them what they want. The ones that will teach them exactly what they want to hear, that brings about their, that is in tune with their thinking in the world today. Like I said, if you don't know your religion, the slightest doubt will make you move from your faith. That's why Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayh says, Nawmun ala yaqeen khayrun min salatin fi shak. To sleep with conviction in your religion is better than to pray with doubt. So someone that's up at night praying salat al-layl has doubt is not better. It's far worse than someone that sleeps but has conviction. And this is where we go to the introductory verse. This is in Surah At-Tawbah, it's a story about those that did not go and fight with the Prophet. You know those people that always want to sit on the fence. Yeah, I don't want to get involved. The haqq is clear, I want to sit on the fence. Allah says, Azzawajal says in the Quran, وَارْتَابَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. وَارْتَابَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Their hearts were what? They had no conviction. Their hearts were doubtful. وَارْتَابَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. That's why when you call someone in a direction, you know, if I tell you, look, Joe said if you do this, you get this much ajr, you say, ah. But then I say, there's a hadith, and Ali ibn Abi Talib says if you do this, it has that. You say, yes, let's go. You know, but these people, even there, the Prophet said something, وَارْتَابَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. فَهُمْ فِي رَيْبِهِمْ يَتَرَدَّدُونَ. And because of this doubt, they were what? Back and forth, hesitant. Do I do this? Do I go with the Prophet or don't I go with the Prophet? Usually when you're hesitant, you're not going to go in the correct direction. That's why, you know, how we used to call the one that's not there back in Lebanon, we used to call them Mithana Ashin or Mio Ashra. So somehow I said these people must be 55ers. They're not there. They're halfway there. They haven't reached it all the way. They don't have enough conviction, so they keep a idol up their sleeve. You know, so just in case they have a contingency plan in case something goes wrong. But if I'm missing the conviction and these elements, what happens? The first speed hump I get on, a wheel comes off. There's no way I'm going to be firm on my religion. And this is the biggest problem. If I listen to anyone that moves me from conviction towards doubt, this person should be X'd. You know, when you listen to a speech after you finish, you go, what? You know, you're like Russell Westbrook for a second. What did this person just say? get off. Don't listen. If every time you listen to this person, that's what happens, don't listen to them. Problem solved. If every time I listen to this person, that's my reaction, stop listening to them. The second thing he says, من الكبر إلى التواضع. So this person should be moving you from pride towards humility. Not he gets up on the mambar and says, أنا العالم تعلموا مني مولانا. I'm the one that understands everything. Come and learn from me. If I come and say that, you go, whoa, this guy's not afraid to say it. You know, the Zlatan Ibrahimovic's of the Turban Society. The one that says, I'm it. Just ask me. I know it all. There's a problem there. And humility in Islam is paramount. It's so important. One guy goes, you should turn up late because it gives you an aura. You know, when you turn up to a lecture, he said you should always turn up late. And I said, why? He said it gives you an aura. What do you mean it gives? That's takabbur. What, do you think you are better than the people, so you turn up late? Another person, these people, you'll see them in society. He says, I will never enter a place without an entourage. I will call people to come with me. Someone to carry my briefcase, someone. And he says, I take them in as wings. So when I walk in, the people can see my position. One of them is actually one of the people that in our community that stirs up these doubts. He used to believe, he was a firm believer in bringing an entourage wherever he goes. The Wizard of Oz mystique, the smokes and mirrors. And people love this, and that's why they become deviated. The other thing is, the third thing he says, من العداوة إلى المحبة. Subhanallah. Take a look at these people. The deviants, take a look at the model of the Wahhabi. I don't know if I told you this story. And I'm sure I've said it before. I had a cousin of mine, he worked in the Hamra, I've said it before. And he worked for a Christian man. And the man said to him, it's like if I asked you now, can you tell the difference between a Presbyterian, an evangelical, a Protestant of any other type, Church of England or a Catholic? You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So this guy in the Hamra said to him, you must be a Shia. And he said, so I said to this Christian man, how do you know I'm a Shia? He said, you're religious, I can see this. He said, but there are Sunnis that are religious too. He said, nah. He said, what do you mean? He said, the Shia, when he becomes very religious, he likes everybody. He said, when the others become very religious, they hate everyone. They want everyone dead. This is a fact. Take a look. When you meet a moderate Sunni, one that doesn't know who Khalid ibn al-Walid is yet, he likes you, he's your friend. The second he understands, the second he smells Bukhari, okay, then he wants you dead. He wants your blood. He wants it on a plate. Okay? Every time he sees you, kafir, rafidi, mushrik, everything. That's the terminology he uses. It becomes so different. So they become haters. And even in our community, it's like that. Take a look at the Sushi. Sushi is a perfect example. He hates the Shia. He hates the Shia. He considers the Shia as a kafir. Why? Because the Shia that follows his religion, he says, we're all one, we're all brothers. And all these other people, I remember once I said, لَعَنَ اللَّهَ قَتَلَةَ الْحُسَيْنِ. And this guy standing, he's dead now. He's gone to what he used to love. He said to me, why قتلت الحسين? ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. And I looked at him. I said, what is wrong with ما لكم كيف تحكمون? If someone killed someone, cut him off on the road, he'd curse them. But he won't curse whoever killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam, would he? But he'll curse the Shia. He actually wanted to kill me when I said, لَعَنَ اللَّهَ قَتَلَةَ الْحُسَيْنِ. He was so angered with me saying this, that may Allah curse the killers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I didn't even curse his heroes by name. But anyway, or the cursing mambar. You've seen these people that have television stations, they'll mention any of the Sahaba and they curse them. They mention any of the wives of the Prophet, they curse them. And while he's safe in his home, in whatever Western nation, wherever he's safe, he makes all these comments and he says, Inshallah, I die a martyr. And he said, brother, you're not going to die a martyr. In Britain, you're not even allowed to carry guns. You want to show me how big everything within you is and you're firm in what you believe, go out there and talk like that in other countries where you will become accountable for your word. This is, you go get me the hadith of Ahlul Bayt. Find me out where Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen gets up khutbah al-Jum'ah and starts by cursing the heroes of the people publicly. No. Allah, taban he cursed. Taban you're supposed to curse. Taban it's worship to curse. But the mambar isn't yours for you to use it the way you please. The mambar is for Allah Azzawajal. So you have to use it in this manner. This does not mean you don't say what they did. You expose them. But you don't say something that's going to go out there, and a lot of lay people are going to hear this. You know, there's people out there, believe me, mustad'afin. I remember, I will tell you why. That gives you insight. Why I never curse anyone by name on this mambar. I will tell you why. Once I was coming home by bus from school. And one guy I was at school with, a colleague at school, he said to me, why do you Shia curse Sayyidina Umar? He said this to me. And he said, when he slept in the bed of Rasulullah when Rasulullah was doing the hijrah. So this poor chap actually thought Umar was Ali ibn Abi Talib. So his understanding of Umar was a good thing. The Umar that he saw was a good Umar. He didn't know the Umar that we know. And this is what you need to understand when you're talking on the mambar. They don't know. So what you do is you let them know who Umar is. You let them know who Abu Bakr is. And what they did, then themselves they'll understand. You let them know what is in the narration. You show them the videos. Like one of the good, one channel I always recommend people see is the channel for Dhul Fiqar al-Maghrabi, because he doesn't curse. He shows what they did. He's not like those other people that one day they're wearing the turban, the next day they're wearing suits. One day they're wearing the turban, the next day they're trying to look like a prophet and they got this wave around their head, if you watch his latest videos. But anyway, not to mention anyone by name. Okay. Then it says, then the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, وَمِنَ الرِّيَاءِ إِلَى الْإِخْلَاصِ, that this person must be someone that doesn't do things to show off. They do them because they actually believe in them. They're mukhlaseen. They actually have belief. They do. You need to avoid the ones that do the extra yards publicly, but when they go back home, it's a different story. One guy, I remember, he was one of those public people. But then, when it came to being at home, he would ridicule the whole ecclesiastical world. It's all a joke. One person went to one of these people to get advice. He said, I went to get advice from one of these people that own, one of the people, I'm not mentioning by name, that had their own TV stations, and they rabble on. So he said, I went up to one of them and said, give me advice on, I have a speech, what should I talk about? He said, he looked at me and said, what, you want to say to the riffraff? He said, they're all stupid. Whatever you say to them, they'll believe. No respect for who sits on the mambar, Abu Abdullah Hussein. When the people that come to majlis are people, if you put on the mambar, they can give us, any one of you, put you up here, you can give a speech yourself. And you know this. 3/4 of the things I say, you already know. It's just a reminder. But this person had no respect for these people. And you can see when you watch his TV station, that look, that piercing look of takabbur is unbelievable. It goes right through your soul. And you can see it in their demeanor. And this is why a lot of people left Catholicism. Why did people leave religion? Because of this. That they were too holy to even be held accountable for the crimes they committed against the people. And finally, he says, وَمِنَ الرَّغْبَةِ إِلَى الزُّهْدِ, that this person must basically detach you from the world when you talk to them. They don't make you desire the world. طبعا when we look at zuhud, zuhud doesn't mean, like honestly, I remember and the reason I'm telling you these stories, just to let you know what kind of people out there. One guy that gives lectures, I remember he said to another guy, he said, the jacket on my back is worth more than your car. He actually said that to him. And then the next second he's given a speech on the Mambar Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, teaching people to come towards Islam. This is raghbah, making people run towards the dunya. I want the dunya rather than detaching themselves from zuhud. Take a look at these people, and I'll give you, there's a lot of ulama you can look at as examples. One example I've used before is Sheikh Wahid al-Khurasani. It's a beautiful example. One video I watched for him where he was being introduced, and the person introduced him as this person is the Za'im of the Hawza. This is the person's in charge of the Hawza, and he praised him. And when the person finished, and he said that the person introduced me, the things he has said to me are unfortunately not true about me. He says, I have nothing good in me. I'm full of shortcomings. He wouldn't even, and he was so sincere about it. And even to the point when I've heard people who visited him, he would talk like that to them. It's the manner that he has. Some fuqaha, you sit with them honestly, you go visit them, you can feel this. They are genuine. Some ulama, they're genuine. But for some reason, people tend to fall under the spell of the deviance, even though it's loud and clear. The person the person by the shway, he needs to open up his coat and say, listen, I'm deviated, for people to wake up to. It's obvious, everything about him is screaming deviant. And this is where doubt comes in. I'm just going to tell you a story and we're done. Honestly, forgive me, I've been over 50 minutes. I hate the sound of my own voice. I really do, but I want to make this finishes off with a nice story. That during the Battle of Jamal, the Ahlul Basra, they stood with Aisha and Talha and Zubair and fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen. And afterwards, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen put a pulpit of they put wooden racks that he stood above, and he began to admonish the Basrans, the people of Basra, for partaking in the battle. As he finished, and he walked past Hassan al-Basri. He's someone that needs no introduction. People that know about him. But this story will really introduce you to him. So he walks past him and he sees him doing wudu. So Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions to him to do his wudu properly. So Hassan Basri said, only yesterday, he's talking about the Battle of Jamal, you were killing people that were believers and who did their wudu properly. He ridiculed the Imam. So then the Imam, these are the wrong people to ridicule. Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam have the answer for them every time. He said, if that is your opinion of them, that they were believers, he said, then why did you not fight with them? So you could have met Dhul Fiqar with them. Why didn't you fight with them? So you could have been on the other end. And then he said, I woke up in the morning, this is, and you could relate this to so many people in your life. I woke up in the morning and did my ghusl and I anointed myself, he said, and wore my arms in the direction of battle. So he prepared himself, got his battle. Can you imagine Hassan al-Basri preparing himself to go to battle? People that know him will understand what I'm talking about. And he said, I had no doubt that those that did not fight alongside the mother of believers, Aisha, were unbelievers. So in other words, he's saying Amir al-Mu'mineen and all the people with him were unbelievers because they did not fight with Aisha. Then he said, I heard a caller. Sama'tu munadi. He says, Ya Hassan. A caller called him out and said, Al-qatil wal-maqtul fin-nar. The killer and the killed will go to hell. So he said, I returned. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Sadaqt. He said, what you have said is the truth. أفتدري من ذاك المنادي? Do you know who is the one that called you? He says, قال لا. Hassan Basri said, I don't know who is the one that called me. He said, قال ذلك أخوك إبليس. The one that called you was your brother Iblis. He called you. He says, وصدق. The news he gave you was true. He says, أن القاتل والمقتول منهم في النار. Because you were on your way. Look at the way he called himself out. Where was he headed? He was headed to fight on whose side? On the far side of Aisha, Talha and Zubair. So he said, when he called out to you and said the killer and the killed will be in hell, he said his advice he was giving you was true. Because the killer and the killed on their side is going to hell. So you received some good advice there from your brother. He was looking out for you. So this is the type of people that bring about doubt. And they have doubt. Hassan al-Basri was one of those people that had opinions that if you actually listen, he's the one that, why do you think they scare people about fire of hell? Because of Hassan al-Basri. Hassan al-Basri used to say, I'm amazed that whoever enters paradise with all the sins that we commit, everyone's going to hell, in other words. You've met those people. They're like the Hassan al-Basris of society. The ones that always petrify people, make them feel there is no hope in the mercy of Allah Azzawajal. Now, this is what I need to look for when I want to listen and acquire knowledge. You want firmness in your faith, you want to have strength in your faith, avoid those that give you doubt. When you listen to a lecture and you see the person that you're listening to is making you feel doubtful about your religion, stop listening to them. They give you too many question marks, don't listen to them. If they have too many comments, they want to be famous, and you want to respond to them and they block you even when you have a sound argument, don't waste your time. Okay? The ones that have enmity towards everyone. Everyone, you sit with them, you go, hey, everyone's going to hell except my type. People that are AB negative, they're the only ones that go to heaven, everyone else goes to hell. Those people, avoid them. The people that it's all about show. Remember one gentleman, he told me, he goes to me, we went Hajj. He said to me, who were these two people that were with us? What were their names? And I told him what their names. He went up to them, he said, Hajj Fulan, I just remembered you in the 40 for my Salat Layl. I said, dude, you didn't even know their name 10 seconds ago. How did you remember them in the 40? This is what happens. And then they are the ones that make you, when you hang out with them, you want dunya. You've seen that guy that he's from the other school. And he has all these opinions about, gives speeches, next second you see him, it's all about flashy cars, flashy lifestyles. You see these people, they're flash. Everything's about flash. And people start desiring dunya. When they're around this person, they want dunya. They're around him, all they think is about what? Dunya. Why do I want to listen to this person? Why do I want to be near this person? These are the things that are your guideline. Please look over them. So when you want to listen, I'll tell you now, most of the people you will listen to are people that call to God. But you got to be careful because the majority of those that are listened to don't call to God. They call to themselves, to their product. So be wary of this. We ask Allah Azzawajal to keep the doubt from our heart and make our hearts firm in His belief. We ask Allah, and one of the things that will remove hypocrisy from your heart is to raise your voice with the salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is a good measure to look at yourself. If you can't raise your voice with salawat, something's wrong. So whenever someone says the name of Habibullah Muhammad, you raise your voice with salat ala Muhammad. Have no shame when it comes to this. Something should be proud and your voice should be as loud as it possibly can be. We ask Allah Azzawajal to give us firmness in our belief in His oneness. And we ask Allah to give us firmness in our belief in His religion, which is Islam, and in the belief of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And in our belief in the Quran as being the final divine revelation, and in our belief of the Kaaba being His sanctified house and the place where people go to repent, and our belief in the Day of Judgment where the scale, the mizan, is where I will triumph ببركة الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. But when you get to the door, there's the main belief that gets you in. Other than that, there's no way you're getting in. Your belief in Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu. Your belief in الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله وسلامه عليها. And your belief in their children, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein wa Ali wa Muhammad wa Ja'far wa Musa wa Ali wa Muhammad wa Ali wal-Hasan wal-Qa'im al-Hujjat al-Muntadhar al-Mahdi arwahuna fida. This is my pledge and this is what I'm firm in. After that, if you have arguments with everything else, they are of little matter. This is what's important. As long as that's firm, that I have belief in this and I have bara'ah from their enemies, I am safe with my religion. Do not even like their enemies for a moment. We ask Allah to hasten the reappearance of our master Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi. أرواحنا فدا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم قل لوليك في هذه الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا وموتاكم وإلى قبول الأعمال وتعجيل الفرج. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.